Well, good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day here in Massachusetts. Temperatures are going to reach 60 degrees. The sky is blue, no clouds. What we're going to be doing today is driving over 100 miles east to search for several different species of reptiles. Particularly, I'm going to be targeting a snake that I have never seen before. So I'm pretty excited and confident that we're going to find stuff today. It's the perfect weather here in early March, and we'll see. So I have a little bit of a drive to go, and once I get to the site, I'll touch back with you. Well, alright everyone, we have arrived at the site today. As you can see, behind me is this huge expansion of marsh, freshwater marsh. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be patrolling the edges of this marsh here, and we're going to be looking for snakes, turtles, amphibians, any herps that we can really find. Right now, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's not too windy. It's in the mid-60s, and stuff's really going to be basking along the edges of this marshy habitat over here. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing for the next few hours. I've actually run into some herping friends right now, so I think the three of us are going to be collaborating, trying to find all sorts of stuff. So it's going to be a really great day. I'm super excited, and without further ado, let's get moving and look for some herps. Alright everyone, we have our first turtle of the day. This is an eastern painted turtle that has a surprisingly darker shell coloration. Normally the plastron is this bright yellow or orangey yellow coloration, but we can tell it's a painted turtle for a couple of reasons. Number one, just looking at the marginal scutes along the edges here, you can see they have this really reddish swash coloration. And just looking inside, it's tough to see, but you can see how just striped this individual is, especially around the face, the head, and the limbs. Right now, it's likely that this painted turtle probably just came out of brumation not too long ago, and it's really, really cold, and it's just trying to get some heat out with the sun. Now what happens is turtles bask really early in the spring, early into the summer. The frequency of basking is higher in the spring, and that's because the water temperature is still really, really cold, and turtles being ectothermic, really their body temperature fluctuates with the environment. So if it gets really cold, and their body temperatures are going to be cool, so in order to get warm they have to come on the land or either logs or emerged rocks just to bask, and that heats up their internal body temperatures, and when they get too warm they dip back into the water. So this is really surprising just to find one on the trail like this, but probably gonna grab a few photos and then we'll keep searching. I left one of my GoPros running on time-lapse to see how this painted turtle would respond after we left the area, and sure enough, after it felt safe, this shy turtle indeed emerged from its shell. Here are a couple of eastern painted turtles basking on a log. So my friend Lyndon just found this smaller active painted turtle. Now this one has more of that brighter yellow shell that we were talking about. I would say this one actually, I would say it's at least a couple years old, just because it looks like the shell is pretty hard and formed, but it's pretty active, and it's good to see them moving. So things have been going pretty well so far. It's already a couple painted turtles that we've seen, and it takes some macro shots of this little guy. Even though this young painted turtle was missing its left eye, it appeared healthy otherwise and was quite eager to get away from me and back into the water. So we just pulled this monster snapping turtle out of the water over here. It was just sunbasking itself.
Right over there, actually.
And this thing,
Right over there.
for reference, is absolutely huge. It has to, I would say this is definitely a male, probably upwards of 30 pounds, probably closer to 40 if I would have a guess. This is definitely one of the biggest, I'm in shade. This is definitely one of the biggest snapping turtles that I've ever seen. And it was just, like I said, basking on the edge. Gave me a good scratch, and yeah, we just posed it for some photos, and we're gonna let him go on his way. After photographing this massive snapping turtle, I attempted to coax it to return back to the water. However, this male seemed content to just sit and bask in the sun rather than return to the freezing March water.
Wow.
So Lyndon just found this really tiny hatchling spotted turtle. It's dead. Likely just didn't make it through the winter, but this is probably the smallest spotted turtle that I've ever seen. Well, we got our first bullfrog and amphibian of the day. Unfortunately, this guy is long since dead. Can't even make out the tympanic membrane anymore to identify the sex. This is likely, if I would have to say, I'd say that's a female, but again, just based on, oh, here we go. It looks like that this is the tympanic membrane, and just much smaller, about the same size of the eye, but that is really wild just to come across a bullfrog like this. All right, everyone, we got our first snake. This is an eastern garter. It closely resembles the snake that we are targeting, but nonetheless, it is not. This is the most common snake that we have in Massachusetts. In fact, garter snakes are actually the state reptile. So, pretty cool. This is our first snake of the day. We're going to grab some photos of this garter and keep on looking. It's not the snake we are specifically targeting, but nonetheless, it's a really cool find. This is our first live snake of 2021. So that's really, really exciting. So we have just come across another garter. I believe we're up to 4 now. And it's just in the bushes right over here.
I can't.
Oh, yeah.
Grab no problem.
Wiggle worm.
There we go. My lifer eastern ribbon snake. This is really, really exciting. The snake that I came out here specifically to target today. Nice find by Will and Lyndon over there, who snagged this beautiful snake. We're going to take some photos, and yeah, this is great. Alright, so this is an eastern ribbon snake. We actually have 2. Lyndon over here has another one that's slightly larger. So on quick glance, this looks just like a garter snake, but they're actually a different species. They're both in the same cogenre as garter snakes of Thamnopus, but there's a few differences to look for. I'm going to try putting this guy down, see if he's going to take off. But if you look here, you notice that this ribbon snake is really, really well striped. Now, all ribbon snakes have this kind of brown and yellow striped patterning right here. Garter snakes can be striped, but there are others that aren't. The biggest difference to look for is if you look at the lateral stripe, which is right this stripe where my thumb's pointing at, it's about 3 to 4 scale rows up from the ventral scale. So garter snakes, their stripes are only 2 to 3 scale rows up from the ventral scales. And then the other difference is looking at the head. So ribbon snakes have pure white lip scales with very few markings, and they also have this white dot just anterior to the eye. It almost looks like a tear. So that garter snakes do not have that white marking, but one of the most defining characteristics of a ribbon snake is the habitat. So ribbon snakes are semi-aquatic. They hunt small frogs and fish, but they only live in marshy places like this. You can occasionally find them in vernal pools or on the side of a small kettle pond, but they're very habitat specialists compared to an eastern garter snake that's as a habitat generalist as you can get. But this is the snake that I was specifically targeting. I might have mentioned that earlier. I've never seen one until today. So with this snake, I have now seen 11 of the 14 snake species that are native to Massachusetts. I have only 3 more to go, which is really exciting, but this is a lifer and it's just really calmed down and it's behaving rather nicely. But yep, this is an eastern ribbon snake out here in Massachusetts.
Ribbon snakes are non-venomous and rarely do they bite. In fact, their first line of defense is to flee when they feel threatened. This did make photographing these ribbon snakes very difficult, as it was very hard to get them to stay in focus. Ribbon snakes are not quite as common as they once were in Massachusetts. When it comes to population density by state, Massachusetts ranks 3rd in the entire U.S. In the last 30 years alone, there has been major development, especially within the eastern part of the state. With ribbon snakes being so obligated to freshwater wetlands, the continued loss of this vital habitat, transforming it into housing developments and strip malls, will continue to lead to the decline of the ribbon snake. While they are currently not a listed species in Massachusetts, with the continued loss of this vital habitat, ribbon snake populations could seriously decline to the point where they could become a listed species. Therefore, it is important that we pay more attention to ribbon snakes in Massachusetts.
Okay everyone, so we have just found this is a dead northern water snake. This is a perfect habitat to find water snakes in. This is the other aquatic snake that we have. They're far more abundant than ribbon snakes are. Water snakes are pretty much found statewide in any type of freshwater habitat. I personally find water snakes are the best place to look for them is around rocky shorelines of big lakes, especially in June. But unfortunately, this is the only water snake that we have seen today. And I just wanted to talk about a couple ways how you can identify that this is a water snake. So northern water snakes are actually one of the largest snakes that we have in Massachusetts. They can get up to over 4 feet long, and I've personally observed females close to that size, if not bigger. They do have, you can see this red patterning that runs the length of the body, but as they get older, they become more melanistic or darker in coloration. They have highly keeled scales, and that really more so than I think any other snake that we have, or at least are very noticeable. And the underside has this really nice patterning here, this red on white checkering. I was hoping to find a live one today, but I will have to settle with this dead one. Maybe we can find a live one as we continue onward. But this is the one snake that people in New England think that they're water moccasins. They always associate this snake as being a water moccasin. Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but there are no water moccasins anywhere near Massachusetts or New England for that matter.
Water moccasins, or cottonmouths, are semi-aquatic venomous pit vipers that are native to the southeastern United States, with Virginia representing the absolute northern extent of their range. Because cottonmouths and water snakes look so similar, and both species live in the same habitats, it is easy to see how someone can mistaken the latter for the former. However, here are some following tips that you can use to distinguish both species. Cottonmouths are aptly named because when they are threatened, they will gape their mouths, which reveals a cotton-white interior. Additionally, as pit vipers, cottonmouths have these white pit organs between the eye and the nostril. These organs allow the cottonmouth to detect differences in temperature of their surrounding environment because they're able to absorb heat. This comes in handy when you specialize in hunting small warm-blooded mammals, as most pit vipers do. Also, look at the eye of the cottonmouth and see how the pupil is a vertical slit. When looking at the facial features of a water snake, notice how the pit organ which is present in cottonmouths is not in northern water snakes. Also, if you look at the eye of the water snake, notice how the pupil has an oval shape. This is important because any snake in Massachusetts or New England that doesn't have vertical pupils or heat-sensing pits is a member of the colubrids, a group of snakes that are either completely non-venomous or have mild venom that is not lethal to humans. In New England, the medically venomous northern copperhead is the closest relative to the cottonmouth, as both snakes are in the same cogenre of Echistrodon. Notice how the copperhead has a heat-sensing white pit and a vertical slit for a pupil, just like its Echistrodon cousin. The timber rattlesnake is the only other medically venomous snake native to New England, and as a pit viper, it too has vertical pupils and heat-sensing pits. In New England, timber rattlesnakes and northern copperheads are only found in areas that are associated with steep trap rock talus slides and are so rare that most New Englanders will never see both species. So in conclusion, if you are anywhere in New England and come across a large black snake that is either swimming or moving near the water's edge, it is most likely a non-venomous northern water snake and definitely not a venomous water moccasin.
So these snakes can get a little grumpy though, especially in June, and they're known for biting, and especially the gravid or pregnant females. They do have an anticoagulant that's in their saliva, so it might cause you to bleed a little more if you're bitten by one, but it's not lethal by any stretch of the imagination, unless you're anything about the size of a bullfrog or a fish or slightly smaller than that. Certainly a Nerodia this size couldn't prey upon a huge bullfrog like the dead one we found earlier, but nonetheless, this is the third snake species that we've seen today. I'm hoping, like I said, to find a live one. We're going to continue on here for a little bit, I don't know how much longer, and see if we turn up anything. So we have just found another dead northern water snake, like the other one was upside down underwater, and this one here, most likely a female, is at least 40 inches or a meter in length. She is absolutely massive. We're going to grab some photos of her really quick and compare her with the other one.
Both this larger female and likely smaller male appeared to have been healthy or had just recently died. Nonetheless, to see both individuals floating upside down near the water surface was a concerning sight. It is important to remember that most of New England's wetlands are still frozen, and really, it has only been the last couple of days that have been warm enough to trigger reptile emergence. In fact, the southern end of the ribbon snake bog was actually covered with snow and ice when we visited, so while it may have been warm enough during the day to trigger the water snakes to move, the temperatures dropping at nighttime is likely what caused both water snakes to die. However, if we continue to find water snakes dead floating in the water like this long after the snow and ice has melted, then maybe there is something else going on that should make us much more concerned.
So we have something really cool that's in the water over here. Just want to see if it came down this way. It might have dipped back under it, but ooh, that's a red-winged blackbird that just flew out of the brush there. Unfortunately, I don't see it, but there was a muskrat that was in this little canal over here. Now, muskrats, they behave similar to that of beavers. They do build lodges along the edges of shallow wetlands and stuff like that. Obviously not as big, but they're a very, very cool rodent. I know it's a non-herp, but I was actually absolutely stunned to come across a muskrat. I actually think I only have ever photographed them once. But it's somewhere in this canal over here. It's since dipped, and I'll see if I can try and get a better shot of it or if it comes out. But I think we spooked it and it's since taken off, but really, really cool.
No outing is complete without seeing a few birds, and perhaps the most surprising find of the day was coming across several northern harriers. Also known as marsh hawks, northern harriers are Arctic migrants that can be found in New England during the colder months. They're often seen flying low over marshes and open grasslands, searching for prey. Here is a northern mockingbird perched on a branch. A flock of Canada geese in the open water of the marsh. A likely breeding pair of mallard ducks. Mute swans are invasive to New England, and their territorial behavior gives them a nasty reputation. The echoing calls of red-winged blackbirds heard throughout New England's marshes is an iconic sound of early spring. Another iconic sound of early spring. These loud noises are being produced by tiny frogs known as spring peepers. Specifically, these are males trying to call out to a receptive female. Well, alright everyone, I think this is going to be a wrap for today's video. We saw nearly 10 species of reptiles and amphibians, so coming out here this was a perfect day to look for snakes, turtles, and frogs, stuff like that. So if you really liked what you saw today, please consider liking and subscribing. As you can see by my shirt, I'd much rather be herping than doing really anything else, especially as it gets warmer, so I'm going to be producing a lot more videos related to reptiles, amphibians, and other wildlife as the seasons get warmer over the next few months. So thank you so much everyone, and have a great day.